Welcome back to the bottom of the barrel.
I'm Jeff.
And I'm Ben, and we're scraping the bottom of the barrel to come up with the best worst movies that we can think of.
Because, like us, you may take pleasure in that for some reason. Okay, getting started. Today we're doing a movie called Robo Vampire, which you may have heard of. It was directed by a guy by the name of Joe Livingstone, or if you're in the know, like Ben and I, Godfrey Ho. And this movie was made, or at least some of it was made, in 1988. Now, Ben, do you remember what you were doing in 1988?
In 1988, I was in 12th grade, so I was probably playing Nintendo and picking my nose.
That surprises me because I didn't think you were that much older than
Oh no,
me,
12th
but
grade? Oh, hold on. No, I f***ed up. I was in 6th grade.
that
I'm a
sounds
big
more
old.
like it.
What a dumb shit. I was 12 years old in sixth grade. Oh my God. All right, my math skills are terrible.
Well, in 1988, I was in second grade, and I spent most of my time sitting on the floor of my bedroom playing Nintendo, a console on which I would later come to first discover the Chinese hopping vampires in a game called Vice Project Doom.
Mhm.
And I thought that those hopping vampires were something that just existed in that game. And so, fast forward to a few years ago, I think it was during the start of the pandemic when I started taking in more wonderfully terrible movies than I ever had before. I discovered Robo Vampire.
Hmm.
And there, once again, were these incredibly goofy hopping vampires. So, anyway, let's get started with Robo Vampire.
All right. You know what I always say? Godfrey Ho's before Rose.
I would have to agree, but I think here we are. Here we are, two bros bringing Godfrey Ho and our brohood together. The film starts with a segment which makes very little sense. There's three guys who we can assume are cops of some kind, and they're poking around, opening boxes. So first we get snakes popping out of the boxes.
Yep.
Whatever, no big deal. But oh no, then we get vampires popping out of the boxes. And these aren't just any vampires. These are vampires who hop at you like this, and they, instead of sucking your blood, they take small bites out of your neck, but somehow pull out massive, massive amounts of gore and flesh. And so these three guys, who we can assume are cops or narcotics agents,
Yeah.
I'm not sure who's on whose side because we don't know who they are. And at
Yeah.
one point, two of them start fighting each other while the other one is fighting the vampire. And then that scene just kind of ends.
Yeah.
And
That's going to be a
so,
recurring theme with this one where we're not going to know who's who for a lot of the time, unless we're talking about Tom, the spiritual guy who will come to, or the vampires.
yeah. Tom Wild, or the spiritual guy, who I refer to in my notes as the magic karate guy.
I think he looks like Anthony Kiedis myself. I called him Anthony Kiedis in my notes.
Little bit. Yeah, I can see that.
Oh, fuck.
So then the plot continues not to build as we meet the crime boss, who looks almost like a dead ringer for Mr. Cotter of Welcome Back Cotter fame.
Yeah. Yeah, he does
Great,
actually.
great mustache, and he is talking to Ken, his goofy-faced henchman, and some others, talking about how they need to take down the drug enforcement agents,
Yeah.
and that he can train dark vampires to do that.
Right.
Um, so then he sends Ken, who is, I think, was maybe added for comic relief because he's a real goofy looking guy.
Hmm.
But he goes to check on the dark vampire. So apparently, Mr. Cotter, the crime boss, already had some of these dark vampires stored, and they were. It's so hard to coherently explain this movie.
Well, what I think
Next,
happened is that Godfrey Ho watched the movie Mr. Vampire because Mr. Vampire is like a far better version of this part of the story. Have you seen Mr. Vampire?
I have not.
No, it's about Chinese hopping vampires, and there's a spiritual master that's watching over them, and he puts little pieces of paper on their face to make them stop jumping, which is, I guess, what you
Ah,
do. That's the trick, I guess.
according to this film.
Yeah, but in Mr. Vampire, when we first see the vampires, his two henchmen come in, or his two lackeys come in, and they, do some goofy shit because they're slapstick goofballs, and they knock some of the papers off of these guys' faces, and so they get loose, and then he has to corral them back together, which is kind of what happens here. Except his two goofy henchmen accidentally give them rice powder instead of drugs, and it makes the vampires hungry, and they come to life to attack everybody, and so the big guy Anthony Kiedis has to come back in here and say, "Oh, come on! I gotta slap the paper back on these vampires' faces so they stop acting a fool." Like that.
Yes,
Yeah.
which he does, but not until we get to see some adept martial arts fighting, which is the only thing adept that I think you're going to find anywhere in this movie. And this comes after Ken and some other guy who was trying to create a blessing to bless the drugs.
Yeah.
You even hear Ken at one point say,
Bless, bless our drugs.
and then the vampires wake up. There's a big fight, and as you said, magic karate guy comes and saves the day by unfurling scrolls and putting them on the faces of the vampires, which stills them. And Ken even decides to try to hit them and mess them around a couple times just to make sure they're fully stilled by these scrolls that are placed on their face.
I don't know how they stick those scrolls on, but maybe he just licks them and then sticks them on their heads.
Ew.
One can only assume. I mean,
Oh,
this is obviously an ancient practice. They didn't have Elmer's glue back then.
that's true. Or staples.
No,
Um,
which would be the most effective.
the other thing you got to know about this movie, folks, when you're watching it, is the dubbed voices are crazy. They are
Yeah,
crazy dubbed voices, the wildest that I've ever heard.
Listen, we must find a way to handle Tom, that goddamn anti-drug agent.
yeah. You get a multitude of accents, none of them Asian.
Hmm.
Even more nonsensical is what happens next, where we are once again visiting with Mr. Cotter, the crime boss, who suddenly decides to let everybody know that he's out of the drug business and he is now in the practice of body smuggling, professional body smuggling, which immediately cuts to the next scene
Yeah.
where we see a woman placing drugs inside of a dead cow.
And it's very gross. I think that was a real dead cow for sure.
It was. Of my years as a butcher, I can confirm that that was indeed some probably some defective slaughtered livestock that they were able to buy cheap to use to stuff bags of whatever drug they were selling inside of.
Yeah. So this young lady that's cutting the cow open, this place looks like a completely different place. We haven't seen this place before. It doesn't look like that island, I guess, where Tom is stopping the drug smugglers from smuggling their drugs, or the vampire area. This is a whole different place and a whole different batch of people, and they kind of look like they might be from Thailand instead of from China.
Funny you should say that.
Yeah.
That was among several scenes lifted from a Thai film whose name I can neither remember or pronounce.
I've got it written down here. It is actually named Pa Logan. Forgive me if I pronounce that incorrectly, but it was a movie called Pa Logan that Godfrey Ho bought the rights to because that's something that Godfrey Ho does. He buys the rights to movies with his company IFC and then takes 20 minutes worth of new footage, maybe a half hour worth of new footage, takes the rest of the old movie, splices them together, tries to make the voice dubs make sense. And, that's still a practice that's done to this day. Except
Sure.
this day, it's called pulling a Dustin Ferguson.
Shots fired! Shots fired!
I have to say, I think Godfrey Ho was a little better at it.
I would
And I
say so
think he
too.
was a little, and I think he was a little more honest in his approach to it. I think he was a little tad more ethical.
He
And
tried to make it make sense too.
yeah, yeah, he didn't just flat out take other people's work and package it and sell it as his own.
So we switch back to the drug smuggling operation, and somebody's ready
Yes.
to unveil his new vampire, isn't he?
Yeah. Yes. And he puts some makes necklaces of cloves of garlic to his men to protect them.
Yeah.
Which, from what I remember of that scene, I don't think it did much.
I don't think it did much either.
No.
No, they were in trouble anyway, no matter what. But this guy seems to have a couple of regular ass vampires, and then he's got one big boss vampire that's like his pride and joy. It's like his life's work. And for whatever reason, this vampire is wearing a gorilla mask.
Hmm. And we're gonna get to know him
Yeah.
a lot better now. We know that his name is Peter.
Yep.
And but before he really comes along, we get visited by my favorite character, the Lady Witch, who randomly just comes flying into the scene with her. She's got the deathly pale white skin. She's wearing this white sheer transparentish robe, and she just shows up all of a sudden. And why? Because she's very mad that her dead husband, her dead lover,
Lover. Yeah.
Peter,
Yeah.
was made into a vampire, and now she can never marry him.
Yeah. And they say that she's
Um,
from the West and he's from the East, and that's why they couldn't marry. So if she's from the West, does that mean she's an American witch or an American
I
ghost?
I thought she appeared to be Caucasian.
Weird.
I wasn't entirely sure.
Any American ghost I've ever seen didn't, fly around like that. They kind of like, Casper the Friendly Ghost is just kind of, hello,
Well,
I'm a ghost, like that sort
well,
of thing.
this was a lady witch ghost.
Oh, okay.
And when she makes her arrival, one of the henchmen even says,
How can that be a lady ghost?
uh, so yeah,
Yeah.
go figure. But she wants to still marry her dead lover, who is I wasn't even sure if he just had a gorilla face or if he was
Mhm.
wearing a gorilla mask at this point. Um,
He could have
but
just had a gorilla face. He could have been a gorilla man.
yeah,
Yeah.
but
Peter the Gorilla Man.
what do two reunited lovers do when they find each other again?
They fight.
They kick the living shit out of each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden,
Apparently,
yeah.
yeah. From what I gathered from the dialogue, Peter, the
Yeah.
gorilla face
Yeah.
vampire, didn't recognize his
Oh, okay.
former lover.
Yeah.
And once they do figure out once he does figure out who she is, they kind of join hands and they make a pact with the magic karate guy
Yeah.
to follow his orders or something, pledge allegiance to him, and he would make it so they could get married somehow.
All right. But from now on, you must both the baby.
I've thought in my brain that either he recognized her eventually or he got distracted by the fact that he could see her boobs.
You could see those through that gown she was
Yeah.
wearing.
So he got distracted and then, oh, okay, fight's over.
If I have a karate match with a woman and I end up seeing her breasts through her gown, I lose right away. And so this brings us to about the 25-minute mark of the film. Now, if you, like me, have watched this film, you're probably asking at that point, why is this called Robo Vampire?
Yeah.
25 minutes into this thing, and I don't see anything other than vampires. Where's
Yeah.
the Robo part?
The
Because
poster's got
surely,
Robocop on it, for Christ's
yeah,
sake.
it's
Yeah.
literally got RoboCop on it. Well,
Yeah.
the answer unfolds in the very next scene. We have a group of drug enforcement agents
Yeah.
doing battle with the Peter, the vampire beast,
Yeah.
as he's called. Well, long story short, Peter the Vampire Beast starts shooting bottle rockets out of his sleeves,
Yeah.
and I. It's unclear if all three of the drug enforcement agents die, but we are quickly cut to an operating table where Tom Wilde
Hmm.
is being operated on. You can tell they're giving him the chest compressions and all that. And within seconds of him dying, two of the men looking over him, who we have no idea who they are, one turns to the other and says,
Since Tom's dead, I want to make use of his body to create an android-like robot, Mr. Glenn.
as if he just came up with that thought on the spot.
And
And in
he's saying it to his partner Glenn, Mr. Glenn, who's the boss. Glenn is
yeah,
the boss, and Glenn looks like he's 19 years old. He looks like he's the
Mhm.
youngest person in the room, and he's the guy who's calling the shots. And he says,
Are you assured of success?
Mm-hmm.
All right, your application's approved.
yeah, that was brilliant writing. Godfrey Ho had a grasp on linguistics like few others, and in a very slipshod, quick fashion, Tom Wilde is resurrected in, I don't know, it looks like he had shoulder pads that he borrowed from Ace Frehley of Kiss, rest in peace. And the rest, maybe some football equipment that was painted silver, a little bit of tinfoil.
So I described it as a silver jumpsuit covered with tuna cans with a safety helmet spray painted metallic gray on the top.
I think you nailed it.
Yeah. And the biggest friggin' gun that I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
He's a glory to behold, this Tom. Now, I thought before Tom looked like Peter Tork from the Monkees, but now he
A little
looks
bit.
like Bozo Robocop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Timu Robocop,
Yeah.
if you will. So the plot continues not to build
Yeah.
as the drug guys are suddenly in a church
Yeah.
looking for drugs. The priest has no idea about any drugs, as he says, "This is a house of God. Why would there be drugs here?" And the bad guys, they just start shooting up the place.
Yeah.
But then Sophie appears.
Yeah.
Sophie, a woman who is also a drug enforcement agent, starts shooting up the place, not shooting up herself, and she has some success, and but then is chased out and followed and cornered, and in a
Yeah.
she
But
is held.
the drug
Oh, go
guys
ahead.
were right. There were drugs in the church.
Yes,
They were right. They were
yes,
right there. And these are all
and
characters we've never seen before up to this point as well.
mhm, yeah. So after she's cornered and captured, she's quickly tied to a chair, um, assaulted in a way that was just apparently mandatory for schlocky, sleazy 80s movies,
Yeah.
and subjected to Chinese water torture.
Yeah, and it's the first time I've ever seen that in a movie where they've actually done Chinese water torture. We talked about it when we were kids in the 80s, but I've never seen it done up to this point.
So now something very strange happens. A plot actually starts to form. Very, very simple one, but a rescue team is organized to go find Sophie.
Yeah, for a negotiated price.
Yes, it was originally 20,000, but
They
my
settled
God,
on 30,000 in the end. He's like, you know what? We can do it for 30.
yeah, the rescue guy whose name I didn't think to write down and
I
escapes
didn't
me
write it
now,
down either.
or
It
maybe
doesn't
maybe it was never even said.
I'm gonna need 3 more men and lots of ammunition. $30,000.
Great negotiating. They go looking for Sophie.
Yeah.
They're shown a photo of Sophie in captivity and being held. I think in the photo, a guy is holding a knife to her throat,
Something like that, yeah.
and he has a tattooed hand.
Hmm.
Well, ain't it just the darndest thing? They stumble into this village where there just happens to be a public arm wrestling contest. And who is dominating the arm wrestling contest? The man with the tattooed hand.
Man with the tattooed hand, who's wearing the weirdest toque that I've ever seen, too. It's like a little
Yep.
toque that sits on the top of his head.
Yeah.
I think that might be a cultural thing, so I should probably shut up about that.
Yes, cultural insensitivity. So why don't you tell us what happens next after that, after the
So
man is found?
after the man is found, they get into a fight, okay? And this guy's captured. He beats him up, he ties him up, and now this guy's captured. And he's trying the main secret agent guy, whose name I don't think they ever told us, is trying to get the information on where Sophie is out of this guy, and he's not responding. And they just and he's torturing him, so he's torturing this guy to tell him where to go. And then I believe we cut back to Robotom, don't we?
We do.
Yeah,
We do. He shows up during the standoff,
yeah,
and suddenly a circle of fire appears around him
yeah,
on the beach in the sand. Not much comes of that,
yeah.
except for once the fire is burned out, it seems to have burned a circle down into the sand around him, because that's how sand works.
Yeah.
A bunch of hopping vampires jump out.
And a lot of those vampires, they don't really hop either. They're just kind of shuffling. Like these guys aren't really going for it. They're not hopping.
Yeah, it reminded me of like a mid like cruiserweight boxing match. There was just a
Yeah.
lot of that.
Yeah, they weren't putting the
But
whole heart and soul
Robotom-
into their hopping.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Robotom is
Yeah.
actually pretty good at martial arts too,
Mm-hmm.
and they have a pretty quick, uneventful fight until
Yeah.
the crime boss shows up again, and in a matter of seconds, Robotom is exploded all over the place with a blast of a one of those handheld rocket launcher things.
I have to say that I love whenever the mystic guy, the Anthony Kiedis guy, summons the vampires. Because
Oh, yeah.
all of a sudden, he'll just grab a bottle and he'll uncork the bottle and he'll rub the bottle like this, and then all the smoke will come out and then the vampires are there. And I think
Yeah.
that they sped up the camera work on that too, because it's just,
Oh, sure.
it's really crazy.
But lo and behold, Robotom
Yeah.
will not be held down for very long,
No.
because he's brought back to the narcotics agency headquarters. He's back on the table, and the guy who resurrected him in the first place, he has a drill,
Yeah.
and with that drill, he brings Tom back to life
He
in a
didn't
matter
do
of
anything with
seconds.
the drill. He didn't even need the arc welder this time, just the drill.
No. And my other favorite thing about that is the doctor that's with him is wearing a stethoscope,
Yeah.
because that's something you need when you are operating and examining an android,
Well, you got to hear the nuts and bolts whirring, don't you? Like the
I
cranks and
suppose.
stuff. Yeah.
I suppose.
I don't know. Maybe he's got gears and shit in there. Then we
Could
switch
be.
back to those weird three operatives.
Yes.
Yeah, and they're on a raft, and they've got that guy that they took captive with them. Except now I think he's with them. So now I think we didn't see him switch over to their side, but now all of a sudden he's on their side. And they get ambushed by some guys with guns. But then those guys get ambushed by other guys with guns who seem to be on the side of the three operatives, and I don't know who the any of these people are.
Yeah. Though I can't remember if that was after or before.
Oh,
What I thought was actually one of the coolest visuals in the whole movie
okay.
is where they're walking through the village,
Yeah.
and there's all those people crucified upside down.
I didn't even remember that. Holy.
Yeah. They are, there's a whole bunch of them now, and I can't and at this point I've lost track of who's on what side.
Yeah. Who's on
Because I
first?
feel like, so yeah, what's on with them. And so, anyways, a whole bunch of them are walking through the village. They come upon a whole bunch of dead people hanging upside down on upside down crosses.
Yeah. Oh, I do
Not
remember
sure
that
who
now,
the-
because I was like, that's pretty metal, right?
Yeah, not sure who the people were, why
Yeah.
they were dead, but it just made for a really cool visual.
Yeah.
Then a child shows up.
Mhm.
Doesn't serve much of a purpose until he's shot at, and it is revealed that he was holding a grenade,
Ooh.
which turned out to be a dud, and that ends that pointless scene right there. Which brings us to a scene that I at first thought was just a little gratuitous flesh, but I find out later in the movie that the scene ends up kind of serving some poetic purpose. Our rescue guy,
Yeah.
whose name neither of us know,
Yeah.
sees the female member of the rescue team bathing nude
I
in
forgot this.
a
Yeah.
pond.
Yeah.
And his exact words,
It's a great view. You should bathe more often.
and we're unclear as to whether the pickup line really works, because he does get nude.
Yeah.
He does jump in.
Yeah.
They fool around a little bit.
And then we cut.
And then she laughs, pushes him away, and we are tossed right into the next scene.
Yeah.
Where we're once again met by my favorite character, Christine, the angel. No, not the angel, the ghost witch.
Yeah, the ghost witch.
Her and her dead vampire gorilla face Peter are in some random building, and they're performing the strange, I guess, mating ritual that consists of floating around
Yeah.
and eventually joining hands. But who shows up? The new and improved Robotom.
He's new and he's improved.
Yes. And it appears that Peter, the vampire beast, is unable to speak. So Christine delivers us the wonderful line,
"Don't kill us, we love each other. You can kill us, but wait till our love's consummated."
So this brings Robotom to have his Robo flashback.
Yeah.
To a memory that is probably not what I would try to remember in such a circumstance if I were looking back on the better times in my life.
Yeah.
We get a flashback scene to where Tom's wife or girlfriend dumps him.
Yeah. Because she
Because
doesn't
he's
want
a
to be
cop.
with him as long as he's a cop. Because she's a cab.
Yep. Yeah. Yes, she's easily my favorite character in the whole movie for that reason, and that reason alone. Because all cops are bad, even Robotom. So this results in him disappearing, or no, he starts walking away.
Yeah.
After sort of vanishing, and he's walking down the stairs, and I know that the sound effect was somebody slowly dribbling a basketball.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
It has to have been.
So after he walks away, Christine and Peter decide to attack him, and nice little battle.
Yeah.
A little even-sided. You know, you're not sure who's going to win, and you never do know who wins because
No.
it ends in such a fashion. It appears that Robotom is sent flying off into the sky.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
And then a coffin closes, and end scene.
Yeah, and it's crazy. She attacks him with, she's got these bandages, I think, or some sort of white linen. It looks like toilet paper, but it's the world's most indestructible toilet paper because she can yank people with it. Even Robotoms, who probably weigh like a metric half ton, right?
Yeah.
Not a metric half ton. That's not a whole thing. That's not a measurement. A half ton. It's not metric if it's a ton. Come on.
We don't use the here in the States, we don't use that metric system.
I don't use it here either. I just go by my own.
Yeah, me too.
5 quarks and a whisper. That's how much she weighs.
Yeah, a bushel and a peck.
Yeah.
So somewhere between our nameless rescue guy getting naked in the water with his woman companion, they get captured. Yeah. We don't see it happen, but we see them being held in what looks like the same room that Sophie was. And I would ask the viewer, have you forgotten all about Sophie? Because so did I. But this is where the previous scene, I think, becomes poetic. Yeah. Because it was his wish to bathe with her. Mm-hmm. And there they are being bound to chairs and subjected to water torture.
The water torture comes
And
back.
it could be argued that they are now bathing together.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, yeah,
So
definitely.
the prophecy came full circle. And really, everything from here on out is just complete unorganized garbage.
It's disorganized nonsense, but the last battle is a whole lot of fun.
Sure, yeah. We get a whole bunch of filler shit, and the prison camp is blown up.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there's like a whole army movie business here where they're all rolling
Yeah.
around and shooting stuff and throwing grenades and sacrificing themselves. And
Mhm,
all of these people have no stakes, emotional stakes to them because we don't know who the hell they are.
mhm.
But they're sacrificing
And
themselves, and that's crazy.
so after that's blown up, we're brought back to Mr. Carter, the crime lord,
Yeah.
who is addressing his henchmen and saying,
We must rebuild my empire.
well, now we start to see a little bit of Robotom's personality because he shows up,
Yeah.
orders them to drop their weapons in 15 seconds.
Hmm.
He counts down, I think he gets to 12, and then he just starts blasting away.
So I started blasting.
And a bunch of shooting. He gets attacked by Peter and the other hopping vampires.
Yeah.
And then we get a bizarre, leading up to the finale, we get one completely bizarre, indecipherable scene where a young couple is walking along a bridge. They sit by a fountain. The woman is moaning as if she is really turned on. The
Yeah.
guy is looking right at her, uh, trying to make sure that she still loves him. Then we see Vampire Beast Peter's face appear from out of the fountain. Then Robotom shows up, and then we get the final showdown.
Yeah.
So we're in the city now. In my notes, I realized I wrote downtown China, and I realized how that doesn't really make sense.
Yeah, that's a
I'm
big
aware that
downtown.
China is not a town. And everybody comes back. Everyone's back for this.
Yeah.
Magic Karate Guy, Christine, Peter, Robotom,
Mr.
and all
Cotter.
the supporting hopping vampires. The best scene of the film, I think, comes here, and it has nothing to do with Robotom, but it is Christine, the Lady Witch, and Magic Vampire Anthony Kiedis guy,
Yeah.
where they're having this fight,
Hmm.
and she uses her umbrella
Yeah.
to block whatever he's
Yeah,
shooting
he's
at her.
using some weird magic stuff. Yeah.
Mhm. But then she pulls the oldest trick on the book. What does she do? She pulls her top down and tries to distract him with her breasts.
And it
Now,
works.
unfortunately, we can't give you a visual of that.
Yes.
But Anthony Kiedis guy is not too phased by
No.
it, and he manages to claw up her boobs, and you think that's the last you see of her.
Yeah.
Until she comes back a couple of shots later and gouges Magic Karate Guy's eyes out.
Yeah, and it's weird too because she just kind of touches them, but then all of a sudden there's blood everywhere and he's screaming.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
I mean, that's what Lady Witch Ghosts can do.
Yeah.
And which brings us to our climactic ending, where we don't really know what happened to anyone or anything, or who died, or who's
Yeah.
lingering in the afterlife. But we see Robotom walking through the fog,
Yeah.
and the screen goes red, and the words "the end" are shown.
Godfrey Ho is really on his shit with this one. He loves to do abrupt endings like that too, as well as cutting the two movies thing together. He really loves it. I thought this movie was crazy. I had never seen it before until I watched it for this. I thought it was a lot of fun. It was very crazy too, though. I had no idea what was going on in the sub story. Absolutely no idea. There were
Which sub story? Which of the three?
I mean, let's call the main story Robotom. We'll call the main story that one. And the sub story is the mercenaries doing their mercenary things. And so much of that was cut out that I had no idea what was going on. People who were enemies were now friends, and people who were friends were now enemies. There were so many characters introduced and just thrown away. I had absolutely no idea what was going on with that one at all. I wish they had just taken it out and released a short about Robotom. Honestly.
I mean, I personally, I was so taken with Christine, the
Yeah.
Lady Witch ghost,
Yeah.
and Peter. I could have used a whole movie about them.
Yeah, maybe he'll. Well, is he still alive? Is Godfrey Ho still around?
Godfrey Ho, I checked about a year ago, and
Yeah,
he's still out there.
he's still kicking. So there's always a possibility that we'll get a follow-up to Robo Vampire. Well,
Yeah.
actually, did you know that there's three in this
Oh
series?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
They have nothing to do.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't think Godfrey Ho was even involved in the
Oh,
making
really?
of them.
No,
Yeah,
that's lame. That's
yeah.
boring. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. So what did you think of this one overall?
It's been a favorite of mine for since probably around like 2020, right when COVID hit. I think is when I first saw it. Um, and yeah, 10 out of 10, no
Yeah,
question.
you even wrote a song about it.
I did.
Yeah,
I did write a song. We don't have an official recording of it yet. I think
yeah.
we're recording the next album next month.
Okay.
Um, oh, I'll have to send you a picture of the album cover because it's my drummer Brian
Yeah.
is an artist, and the album title is actually from Robo Vampire as well. It's called Mystic Whooshing.
Okay.
If you watch this with closed captions,
Yeah.
when you there's a scene where it's a close up of Peter the vampire
Yeah.
beast, and in parentheses the closed captioning says Mystic Whooshing.
I think whooshing is in the sound whooshing.
Whoosh.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, because
So
I think that the name of what he is kind of sounds like whooshing too, but I'm not positive. I'm probably
oh, could
wrong.
be, could
Yeah.
be.
And now
So yeah,
if you see something come up on the bottom of the screen with the real pronunciation of it, then you know I made a mistake.
So yeah, the Mystic Whooshing Robo Vampire album will be
Yeah.
recorded next month, as far as we know.
Excellent. So overall, I think I had a lot of problems with this. I couldn't follow it at all. I did think that it was very funny that the main bad guy vampire just wore a gorilla mask and shot bottle rockets out of his hands. That was pretty funny. I did like the Mr. Cotter character. I called him I think I called him a tax accountant on here, or something like that. But yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to give it a 10 out of 10 as well.
That's what we like to hear.
Yeah, that's what we like to hear. So, folks, let us know what you think of Jeff doing his first hosting job on the channel.
Yeah,
Yeah, you know
give
what?
us your
Give him no, give him the courage to do it again because Jeff was doing great. This is his first try. We're gonna keep doing these. He's gonna keep getting better and better. And you know what? I think that you did a fantastic job for your first time ever doing something like this.
Well, thank you, Ben,
You're
and
welcome.
I assure you, when we do Empire of the Dark, it'll be even better.
Yes, definitely. All right. So, folks, do not forget to subscribe to Jeff's channel. I think you're this way when I watch the playback, you're on this side of me,
Yeah.
but right now you're on this side of me.
Yeah.
So, subscribe to Jeff's channel. You can hit it by hitting the subscribe button on this video. You can subscribe to both of us in one fell swoop. You can hit subscribe, subscribe. Come back next week for another Godfrey Ho movie. And I'm not going to tell you what it is yet. It's going to be a surprise. Goodbye.